right away, Erik, if you're ready, with
Ready.
one of the biggest questions that I think that most folks really need to get an idea around, which is what social media can and cannot do to grow your audience.
Yeah, and those are, that statement is key because you want to set up realistic expectations when it comes to social media. Elsie, you and I have been around for a long time on social media, especially back in the early days of podcasting, when back then there was a little more signal compared to noise. It's gotten a lot noisier over the past 10 plus years that everybody's been podcasting. And the key here is you now just can't pump links out over and over and over. I mean, there were the days where people would literally tweet every 2 to 3 minutes with something else just to stay top of the feed. And those days are gone. You cannot do that because people will tune you out and bury you. So let's set some expectations here. First off, social media is not going to help you growth hack your way to listeners. That is not going to happen.
Wait, hold on. You're going to have to say that again because people, this is like a clip. This is a moment where we clip.
Sure.
Go.
Social media will not help you growth hack your way to podcast listeners.
No way.
Not going to happen. That is not how this works. Social media cannot magically give you subscribers because social media can't fix a crappy podcast. So what I'm getting at here is social media can gain you awareness if you're doing it right, but it can't get you subscribers. Let me explain that. It's up to you when they land and hear about you through social, and we'll get into that a bit, for you to then onboard them by 1, doing an amazing show, 2, having it be easy for them to onboard and get into your show, and have the expectation be met that what you presented yourself as, or your show as, or your guest as, whatever, out on social is what they're going to get when they ultimately land at the place of listening and hook them in. It's only by truly listening to the show and not getting bombarded and not getting to content for 5 minutes or more that they're going to get hooked. So social can help you get people in the door. It will not get them to buy your stuff, in other words. An example of this, a friend of mine, Jeff C., gave me this example. He's like, you could have a huge TikTok following, but if your podcast has nothing to do with that TikTok audience, it means nothing. So it's about using social to get in front. It's not about using social to get in front of all podcast listeners. It's actually about getting in front of the right podcast listeners.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. I know that one of the things that we often hear, at least from my side of the place here, whether I'm speaking with podcasters directly just as a one-on-one kind of thing, or if it's something that we are helping with podcasters in different ways, and they are very surprised as to when I get like, I have X amount of followers on Instagram, but why are my downloads so low? Or the opposite is sometimes true, where we see really large amount of download numbers for accounts, but their social media is actually quite small. And there's a discrepancy there, but there feels to me that sometimes when podcasters get into the scene and they've been doing a lot of, they've been on social for a long time and they start a new podcast and they have a large following, they have a platform, and then they question themselves and they go, how come I have, 50,000 followers on Instagram and I only have 600 downloads for my show?
Yep. And the thing that, again, this gets back to signal versus noise ratio. And one of the things that I've always kept in mind as I've been working in social media is the fact that there are 2 words to that statement: social and media.
Yeah. And
you need to be good at doing both of them. But we often forget that the social part comes first. We all think about the promotion and the media and the pumping the ads out there, or the audiograms and etc. When the biggest benefit, I put this out on social earlier last week, or at some point here recently, I said, the biggest benefit I've received from social media is And then every single person filled that blank in some variety of community, relationships, partnerships, networking, friends and family and connections and groups and common interests. It was all about the social side of it, the connection. It had nothing to do with, oh, I'm on social because I get to see funny cat videos. That's not it. Like, it wasn't entertainment, it was connection. And that's the thing I think most podcasters miss when it comes to this. Now, we both know Lou Mongello, who's amazing. And I wrote this quote of his down a while ago. He said at a conference I was at with him, he said, every podcaster needs to hear this. I don't care who's listening during New and Noteworthy. I care who's listening after that blip is over. And social is where you can go to do that. And so it's about it's one about seeking out community to get involved with yourself, building your own, as well as utilizing social to connect with your existing listeners, your small pool. I mean, it's often the example, hey, if you've got 100 listeners to your show, some people will think, I don't have any listeners. You have a room full of 100 people who are offering their attention and time to listen to you. Make sure they know where to find you on social to connect with you, and come up with ways to engage them in terms of feedback on the show ideas, serving them, create a Patreon. I know we're talking social media, but Patreon's a huge private social network around your show, right?
Yeah.
So
no, yep, absolutely. I think that, one of the things that you mentioned right now in terms of going back to that first question. So what can and cannot do to grow your audience? And the one thing that we said that it cannot do is that it cannot just magically create your listeners. It cannot magically convert into all of the listeners all the time. And some of the things that I heard you say right now is one of the things that it can do is it can build community. It can build relationships. It can get you into the right place. People will know who you are. And that is just a knowledge, right? Something that my co-host, she podcast, Jessica, often mentions is that one of the first ways in which you can get those listeners is through their eyes. Because in social media, most of the time you're not really listening, you're looking at stuff. And part of it is that you have to think about what calls visually and attention to somebody, whether or not they read something you posted or whether they see an image. That's going to be an invitation, just like you just mentioned, Erik, that it's an invitation to step deeper. And at times with social, what it can do is it can just make the person go, oh, that looks interesting. Even if they don't take action with you right away. It's just I see her now. I now would like her part of my life. I will follow her now, but not necessarily even listening. So it starts to allow you to be seen before they possibly hear you. Because we're talking about social. We're not talking about, we would talk differently if it was in Apple Podcasts, right? If we were talking specifically about Apple Podcasts or specifically about Overcast or another platform that leads possibly with listening versus what social leads for the most part leads with looking.
Yes, excellent point. Yeah, social is a visual medium, no matter which network you happen to be on. I know we think, oh, Instagram's the visual network or even Pinterest, but you're still using your eyes, you're still looking, and not to, discount adding in the what is it called?
Audiograms.
Yes, that too. Yes. But those are videos. Those are actually videos, really. So there's really no native way to do audio on any of the social platforms, although we're seeing everybody try right now. We'll
oh my
get
gosh,
to that at some point in the future, sure.